Hey, Clemson family, let's get into some of the most important things that head coach Dabo Swinney said during this week's media availability, and we'll also get position reviews from 2022 started with a look at one of Clemson's strongest spots on the field, defensive tackle.
I'm Daniel Shirley. We'll also talk about Clemson's new offensive coordinator and see what happened to the basketball team Tuesday night in Boston.
Crazy January and into February. I'm Bill Zimmerman. We're glad you found us on YouTube and the major podcast apps. Welcome to episode 61 of the Reign Supreme Alway podcast. We come your way twice a week with analysis of all the top news in Clemson sports. Head coach Dabo Swinney talking to the media this week, and he was steadfast in playing up Clemson's successes, playing up the consistency of the program, maybe a little bit of a state of the program thing without really calling it that. It is clear when you take a step back and look at everything that's being accomplished right now and in recent years, the Tigers have a very healthy program. He sure wanted to put that in perspective and leave no doubt, didn't he?
He was almost preaching on Wednesday. And it was good to see. Here's my thoughts on this. Is this program in a good spot? Yes. You can't deny that, Bill. I'm 52 years old. We're about the same age. We've seen some bad Clemson football in our lifetime, mainly after Danny Ford left. But if you look at it through that lens, you say, well, my goodness, if you can't be excited about winning 11 games and winning an ACC title, then what are you thinking about? But then there's the other side of it. Well, okay, yeah, that's great. But were the last 2 years good enough? Well, no, they weren't. And both can be true. Look, I'm as insane on game day as anybody, and Bill can attest to that. But if you also look at it and say, okay, they won 11 games again, they won an ACC title, they were better this year than they were in 2021, I think you can admit all of those things are true. And, okay, they need to be better if they're going to get back to the level they were where they were winning national championships. All that stuff can be a piece of the puzzle. And I think Dabo was just kind of giving people a reset on Wednesday of, look, we're not where we want to be, but we're not what we could be. He did point out the consistency of this program, and there's nothing wrong with that. But he also admitted, hey, look, if we want to win national titles, we're going to have to be better. And Bill, he made the big move. I think if we were still sitting here and everything was status quo of what it was after the Orange Bowl, then I think there's a little less confidence. But the fact that he went out and got probably the best offensive coordinator on the market and brought him in to try to help fix this offense, I think that says a lot about where this Clemson program is going these next 3 or 4 years.
And, I think something that gets forgotten a lot is Swinney is not going to be all out, win at all costs, don't care what kind of character we have, don't care what kind of young men we have in the program. He's going to build on academic success. He's going to help these guys build off the field success. He's going to invest the time in that. And what did I say to you during the Tommy Bowden years? Hey, if we're staying out of trouble and we're doing it as clean as possible at the highest level, then I'm on board with that. I want to be not just proud of a win and loss record at the end of the day or margin of victory in a week when you do win. I want to see it get done the right way. And Swinney is committed to that. He's built an entire program. He's built entire facilities around that concept. And that's always going to be a part of it as long as he's in charge.
Well, and you and I are graduates of the university, right? We care about the entire university. We're not just football fans. So we may have a different perspective on that than some other people, but you're right. Even when he puts goals up on the board, like he did Wednesday during his speech, up there was graduating the players. He believes in players getting a degree and what that means to them because he knows how few guys are going to go to the NFL and have success there. So that's always going to be part of his sales pitch. That's always going to be part of his plan. And there's nothing wrong with that. But they have also, Bill, shown you can do those things and win national titles. And you can do those things and go to the playoff. And these past couple of years, they've just not been good enough offensively to get those things done. And I think this is kind of a reset to try to make sure they get on that same path.
Let's get a little more into Garrett Riley. He has been spending a lot of time on the recruiting trail immediately after his hire, but finally was able to spend some time getting to know the Clemson media and vice versa during a press conference this week.
I think the biggest takeaway I took from that was him saying he wants his offense to be fast and physical. I love that. I loved hearing that. I think that's a kind of a weakness of this offense right now. It's not that physical, and it didn't show a lot of quickness to it, a lot of speed. So that really kind of gets you excited. I know a couple of the websites that cover Clemson had that in their headline, fast and physical, and that's great because that's what you want to hear if you're a Clemson fan.
And again, introducing those air raid schemes into the Clemson offense without forsaking the run. We've discussed a little bit about that, but you and I were talking before we hit the record button about some of the Clemson receivers who have struggled to get open. And this is a scheme that really just helps receivers get open and use their talents catching the ball, use their speed, and take advantage of yards after catch because it creates space in which for them to operate.
Bill, wasn't that kind of our concern with the offense last year, or maybe the last couple of years, that there wasn't a whole lot of variety into what we were seeing? And if you watched Clemson play a couple of times, you could almost call the play with them as the play was coming, and that's a problem. So I think you're going to see a lot more in this offense. I think you're going to see some variety to it. I think you're going to see them use the players a little bit differently. There's no doubt that there's talent there, but I'd love to see some more jet sweeps. I'd love to see the tight ends used more than they were. And then, like you said, scheming guys open instead of let's let their talent win the one-on-one battle and get open. Let's scheme some guys to get open. I think you're going to see a lot more of that coming forward with this Clemson offense.
And sometimes it's not only what you say, it's how you say it. And even at a relatively young age for an offensive coordinator, certainly the confidence and the presence is there with Riley.
I mean, he knows what he's doing. He's gotten it done at the highest level. And you watch TCU play this year, you could see that. But not even that, Bill. Go watch SMU play. I know he was only at TCU 1 year, but go watch SMU play. Go watch what he did at Appalachian State when he was coaching in a different kind of offense. So I think there's bits and pieces of that, too, that he can bring to the Clemson offense. I don't think the offense is going to look exactly at Clemson like it did at TCU because he has different players. You're going to see Will Shipley and Phil Maffa used a lot, and Antonio Williams used a lot. And it may not be exactly the same offense that TCU ran. And he said that. He said this offense uses the players that we have and uses them to their best ability. And I think that's an exciting concept for Clemson fans going forward.
Let's get into some position-by-position reviews from the 2022 season. We've been promising that for a while, and we will start with the defensive tackles. That's a group that I think has had more ups than downs, much like the season overall. The anchor of that group is pretty clear. We've talked about him a lot. It's Tyler Davis. He will be back next year, thank goodness. He is a difference maker when he is on the field, just makes everyone else around him better. And he stayed healthy for 2022, first time in a couple of years that he played as much as he did.
It's clear when he's on the field, the defense is a different group. I don't think there's any way that can be denied or argued. He wasn't healthy, like you said, the couple of years before that, and when he wasn't on the field, the defense just wasn't as good. But in 2022, he did stay healthy. He played a lot of ball, and he played really, really well. I thought he was, there's some really good players on that defense with Trenton Simpson and Barrett Carter and all the names that we know. But I thought Tyler Davis was as good as anybody on that defense in 2022.
A high bar for guys around him to match. I think the guy who came closest was Ruka Roa. Another strong year, had a big step forward in 2021. Fair to say he plateaued in 2022, but at a very high level. I don't want to use plateau as a negative there. He simply continued to be the best version of himself that we have seen in Clemson. And another guy who will be back next year and capable of possibly doing even more.
Yeah, I was really excited that he came back and to see him and Tyler both be back in this group in 2023 is special. He might not have the ceiling that some of these other guys have, but he played consistently well when he was on the field. And I think that says a lot about him, and I think it says a lot about what he could do next year and probably into the NFL.
Aurora was viewed as something of a project when he signed. So was Itinosa Rubin, same recruiting class. He certainly has blossomed. one guy who made an immediate splash as a freshman and was able to contribute last year after some injury troubles as a sophomore, injury troubles this year, as well as worst kind of family concern you could have with the death of his younger sister, pulling him away from the team, and rightfully so. Brian Brazee just kind of never was able to really get going. Certainly showed what he is capable of, made big plays, maintained a strong position for the NFL draft. He'll be moving on, but just not the season you were hoping for him to be able to achieve, especially after the injury the previous year as well.
Yeah, it felt like when he tore his ACL in 2021 that things just kind of changed. And obviously we know everything else that went on, but his freshman year, he was so dominant and so good. And then he got hurt. And then this past year, there was just, I don't know how you expect a player to overcome everything that he faced in 2022. He had a good Clemson career. Hopefully he goes to the NFL and just tears it up, because he's certainly been through enough the last year or so that he deserves to have some good stuff go with him as he moves into the NFL.
Someone who emerged as a key contributor and lived up to a high recruiting profile this year was Peyton Page. Have to give him a lot of credit for getting to this point, especially, I would say, fairly quickly in his case. He did have to get into better playing condition physically. That was the bulk of his focus his freshman year, because his senior year of high school was wiped out by the COVID-19 pandemic. But he quickly showed this year why he was the lone offer in that year's class at defensive tackle, and really managed to be a solid presence in the middle.
I thought he took a good step forward, Bill. I mean, it wasn't a superstar. He wasn't dominant, but when he played well. And I thought it was a really nice progression from him from what we had seen before. So look for more of that coming in 2023 for sure.
And then another guy bouncing back from injury was Trey Williams. He returned to form. He's just plenty capable out there. And the way he contributes reminds me of Niles Pinckney or Albert Huggins in that 2018 championship season. I would say Williams is a prime candidate to get more snaps, especially with Brazee going pro.
Yeah, probably. And he's strong as an ox. It's hard to move him around. You can talk about his technique and all those things, but just being a big, powerful guy in the middle of that defensive line, he certainly is that. And I think you'll start to see that a little bit more going, into next season.
And it's not a position preview, but a lot of attention will be going to the guys who come to campus this year as freshmen. Peter Woods, huge name already. Stephelen Green, very capable. Both are on campus already. But one more guy I want to mention in that developmental sense is Demonte Kupp. He's been around a while. He was in that class with Brazee and Williams. We finally got to see some regular doses of him. He proved capable. He's been battling injuries since he got to Clemson. I think the future is bright for him now that he's finally gotten some reps to develop and learn from.
Yeah, I feel like he's another guy who took a step forward. Was it a huge step? No, but when he played and got the opportunity, I think he did his job. And that's all you're looking for from, some of these younger guys who are developing through their career. I think he took another good step. I would say that all these guys took a good step, especially the players who are kind of growing into their role and expecting a bigger role coming up next season.
This group is so deep. Can we just do a 5-man front? Can we find a way for that to actually make sense in college football? I know you can't, but boy, what a lot of talent at defensive tackle. Going to be a very big room. You worry about maybe some guys getting tampered with, or, look, if they choose on their own to start looking around, then you respect that. You just hope the voices aren't coming from outside earlier than they should. And I think there's reason to suspect that that's happening. So we'll see how big this room is once the season actually begins. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at Clemson Kickoff, both of those. We will keep you updated on news when we are in between episodes. Let's go ahead and get over to basketball. Very disappointing loss against Boston College. Daniel, you want to just take it away?
I don't know that you want me to do that, but no, I thought it was a terrible loss. I really did. Disastrous in the grand scheme of what this season is trying to turn into. And I really kind of look at this loss as like the South Carolina loss. I look at like the Loyola loss. And look, they bounced back from those 2 losses and became a different team. But Bill, this feels like a team that needs to get to probably 15 regular season ACC wins if it's going to be in the tournament because of the non-conference schedule. They have one of the worst non-conference schedules in the country and really have kind of made their bed because they scheduled that schedule. So if they don't get to 15 or so conference wins, I think you're probably looking at a team that's going to get left out because of their non-conference schedule. So you look at the last 8 games of their schedule. Look, there's 3 or 4 that they probably will win pretty easily. But you would have thought that about Tuesday night too. And the way they played Tuesday night was just, I mean, where's the fire? Where's the passion? You know what? Where's the grit? We always hear about the Clemson grit, but there was none of that Tuesday night. And they couldn't make a shot. They couldn't get good shots. They turned the ball over with just lazy, sloppy turnovers. And you just hope the goal is to be in the NCAA tournament, you hope a loss like that isn't something that keeps them out.
It's the kind of game that starts making you look down the standings in the conference. Clemson's still in first by half a game over Virginia, but then 5 more teams are within 2.5 games of that lead. You have to win those games against teams like Boston College in order to maintain a lead like that. And now you've got Miami coming up looking like an even bigger challenge than it already did. Miami is 8-4 in the conference and 2 games back of the Tigers.
This game almost feels like a must win, Bill. I really, I hate to be, that guy or that person who follows the team, but like I said, they need to get to probably 15 conference wins, I think, in the regular season if they're going to make the NCAA tournament. So find 5 wins in these last 8 games. And I don't think they're going to go to North Carolina and win. I don't think they're going to NC State and win. I definitely don't think they're going to win at Virginia. Well, there's 3 losses right there out of the 8. So that leaves 5 games left. And so you need to win this game Saturday. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
You want to see the Tigers come out of the gate hot after a loss like that, but you also then need to see them hang on to a lead if they're able to build one in the first place. They lost a big lead against Florida State before coming back to win that game in dramatic fashion. This time, they again lose a hold on an early lead and cannot find a way to get the W.
No, and I'll go back to the Duke game. Since they beat Duke, they're 3-2. They beat Georgia Tech badly, right? But they beat Virginia Tech by 1. They beat Florida State by 1, and then they lose to Boston College. Those are, the last 4 games. Those aren't great teams in the conference. So you're really struggling, other than that Georgia Tech game, to win games. And then Virginia Tech and Boston College, they really struggled offensively to get anything done. So it's not just a 1-game thing. And I know I saw a lot of people saying, well, these kind of games are going to come. It's a long season. They'll break out of it. You hope so, but I don't see this as just a 1-game thing. I see this as this team needs to get back on track and start playing better like it did earlier in the season when it won at Pittsburgh, when it beat NC State and Duke. They need to get that done almost immediately, because if they don't, you're looking at a bad stretch here coming down these last few games, and they could be in some trouble for the NCAA tournament, and that would be a disaster after being 10-1 in the conference. So, you really got to schedule a tougher non-conference schedule unless you're just going to go through the conference and play really well throughout the whole conference season.
8 games remaining before the ACC championship gets started. March Madness closing in pretty quickly. February is a short month. We'll see how the Tigers can handle trying to get out of this little bit of a funk that they've been in and find the peak form that they have shown most of the season.
Look, and hopefully they get healthy. They play Saturday against Miami, and then they've got a week off before they go to North Carolina. And if they can get Brevin Galloway back, they can get Alex Hemingway back into a rhythm. They can get Chase Hunter all the way back. I know he played well at Florida State. He didn't play as well against Boston College. But if they can get everybody back and get healthy, maybe they can go on a run here at the end of the season and prove me wrong. But, Bill, after Tuesday night, I'm really worried about what's going to happen with this team if it doesn't get healthy and get on a run here to end the season.
We'll keep you posted on Clemson basketball down the stretch run. We'll also keep you posted on football recruiting and on the position-by-position reviews of the 2022 season. And any other news that breaks as well, we'll provide analysis of it all. Check us out on youtube.com/Clemson Kickoff and all the major podcast apps. Until our next episode, I'm Bill Zimmerman.
I'm Daniel Shirley. Go Tigers.